Hi friends, today I want to talk a little bit about how to keep ourselves as creators from falling into a state of disarray. We have a tendency as creative types to struggle with consistent long-term creative and productive momentum. And so more on that in a second. First off, I have a video that's going to be coming out about a photo walk where I went down to Moab, Utah, beautiful desert town in Utah, and it was very interesting and fun. I'm going to share that with you guys soon. But yes, creative momentum long term is difficult for people like me, at least. And there are some things that, well, first off, what this can do to you as a person is it can put you in a place where you have to like leave your house, wander off into a forest somewhere, and go, what do I do? I'm scared. Maybe I should do drugs. Don't do drugs. Seriously. I'm gonna try to help you not do drugs, and these are things that I've realized are probably beneficial for me to do, and I'm currently trying to do better at them in my life. That's where this is coming from. And one thing that I think is incredibly important is to keep your direction refined, which is basically what I touched on in the video a few days ago about telling your stories, is to keep your focus very sharp, right? I picture, I don't know, a sword being chiseled into sharp goodness. What can happen is your brain can get sort of muddy, and you feel lost and confused and just sort of all over the place. So remember the story you want to tell. Another thing is, don't let this thing that is actually a strength for us as creators, if you handle it right, become a weakness. Meaning, the idea that we as creators tend to meander a lot. We tend to go all over the place and give about 30% to each different little endeavor, which can lead to some really bad side effects. It has benefits, but also it has utility, but it also has a lot of negative side effects if you don't manage it properly. I love to sit down and make music. It's something that's very enriching for me, but I have to balance that with that 30% thing with something that I give 100% to. It's good for you to do that. Another thing that is incredibly important is to have a consistent trend in your life of writing and organizing and planning. And this is something that is a different process. The same as what I mentioned in the other video, where the idea of storytelling, the process of storytelling is different than the process of creating. These are two separate ventures, right? I think the process of planning and the process of creating are two different ventures, and one complements the other, and it's a symbiotic relationship. Another thing that I think is important is to rely on momentum and not inspiration. Or let me put it this way: rely on momentum more than inspiration, because I am not a person that thinks that inspiration is not important, but it makes more sense as a creator from a purely practical level to rely more on momentum. The creative process is sort of like a plant, right? So it starts to grow, and then as it grows, it branches off and goes in different weird directions, and you go, oh, that's interesting, let me go over there, and let me go. But if you don't sort of plant the seed of momentum in the first place, you feel like you're hitting a wall, which is writer's block, which is really just a severe lack of momentum. You can't figure out how to get going. Another thing that I think is an interesting idea that I came across recently from a guy named Jordan Peterson, who is a psychology professor at the University of Toronto. He's pretty popular online, and he's an incredibly smart fellow. I watch him all the time. Is to organize your non-creative affairs in life more like someone who is someone who is a bit more. Organize your non-creative affairs in a more of a type A structural manner than your creative ventures. Your creative ventures are inherently risky because it's creativity. Organize the other things in a very structural and stringent almost manner to allow you to practice these creative things with freedom and beneficiality, if you will. Anyway, this is him talking about that a little bit.
The other thing I would say for creative people, and this is true for people in general, but it's really important for creative people, is that if you want to be creative, which is very, very dangerous and very, very unlikely to succeed, although absolutely necessary if you happen to be high in openness, is that you should organize the rest of your life, except for your creative endeavors, in a pretty traditional and conservative manner, if you can do that. Because what that does is buttress you against the unexpected and give you some stability on many, along many of the potential dimensions of your life. And that frees you up to take larger risks in the creative domain. Now, it's hard for creative people to do that because they're sort of blasting out, laterally in all directions simultaneously. But you exhaust yourself that way, and you also risk scattering yourself.
One other thing is to not confuse planning with creating. Like I said a second ago, planning is a different process than creating. And some people get stuck in the process of spontaneous creation a lot. And I think I probably tend to fall into that camp more so, and neglect the planning side, which takes that creative spontaneity into something that's more developed and more refined and beneficial to your end goal. I try to balance the two. I try to have planning be a constant fixture and creative. Like I said, they're a symbiotic relationship. And I think that this is the inverse problem of what can happen to us as creators. But if you flip it over, what you can end up with is people who plan way too much and don't create. And they think that planning equals like in your head, you go, you sit down and you write and you plan and you plan and you plan. And you never actually ship something out into the world. You never actually give the world something with that planning. And that's a danger too. That's it. I would love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much. Goodbye.